Welcome to the Voss of Reason podcast, where practice leaders, healthcare experts, and real conversations come together. Brought to you by AstraZeneca Health 360.
Okay, so welcome to season 2 of the Voss of Reason podcast. This is a very exciting moment for us because today we have 2 guests. We have Ethne Nance from our Revenue Cycle, our partner in Revenue Cycle, and we've got our administrator for AstraZeneca MSO, Christy Adeyemi. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Oh, it's awesome, to have our partner in RCM visit us from out of town. Ethne, tell us your journey.
How I got here to Dothan, or in general?
All of it. I think it's just the whole. I always say the journey. It all comes down to, where it began and where you are now.
So in healthcare, essentially, I was in my 20s and was the typical story of being hired as a receptionist, and just always had the philosophy of, if given the opportunity, learn something new. From there, picked up more responsibilities, but this was back in the olden days when nothing was electronic on a computer.
I remember those days.
Everything was on paper. You'd have to mail things into the insurance. And obviously, as time has progressed, I had different positions. And I actually was a tenured professor teaching healthcare administration, billing at a state college. And I guess I'm just an entrepreneur by heart and decided, why don't I just get crazy and start my own revenue cycle company?
A woman after my heart, an entrepreneur who decided to do her own thing. What an amalgamation of people here.
Yeah, and here I am now.
Welcome. And Christy, you took a big, deep dive to join us here. Tell us about you.
Oh, wow. Okay. I've been in healthcare operations for 25 plus years now. And I moved here to Dothan from Atlanta. And it has been an amazing journey so far. I've learned a lot about the key indicators of healthcare in the South, and how critical it is to take into consideration all of the nuances that being in this particular area brings to being able to provide health care to women.
It sure is different, isn't it?
It is. Definitely a mission that I truly can get behind, and I appreciate being here.
Well, we appreciate you taking the plunge because it sure is a little different from a big city. But women's health is suffering across the country, and it's truly suffering in the smaller areas. And I feel like we can, I could have made life a lot easier and gone to a big city and had all these amenities, but I really feel like serving women's health in a smaller town, although very difficult in many ways, really is where the women power is needed, the muscle, the heavy lifting, because it's underserved and there's so much work to be done. I feel like we can make the biggest impact. Yeah. And how do we make an impact? Well, we got to start from somewhere. So
that's right.
Why not Dothan, Alabama?
That's right. And why not Revenue Cycle?
Revenue Cycle, I got to say, Ethne, is baffling to me as a physician. The professionals that do this are, to me, magicians. And for you to break it down and explain it in a way that can educate a physician, which we so need that because, we go to school and we think, oh my gosh, we just know everything. And we actually don't. So we want to hear it from you.
When I would teach this, the first day of the first class with my students, I would tell them 2 things. I said, the first thing is you need to take rhyme, reason, and logic, throw it out the window, because then you can start to understand the world of revenue cycle. And the second thing is you have to understand the math is not 2 + 2 = 4. math and revenue cycle is essentially 2 + 2 = a pancake.
I love that. With syrup, where's the syrup? I want maple.
Forgive me, I have a lot of ridiculous analogies, but it's how you make sense of it. Yeah. But you're either, I think, a little crazy, or your brain's wired a little different, because all of a sudden it's like, yeah, of course it would make sense that it's a pancake. Yeah. That's the math. But I mean, I've seen Harvard MBA accountants near tears trying to figure out this math. Yeah. So it's confusing.
And the mathing just isn't mathing.
It will never math the way you want it to, and that's what you have to kind of understand and accept.
Sure.
I'm so grateful for your expertise, Ethne. One of the things just recently that I've been dying to ask about is the recent announcement from insurance companies, Cigna in particular,
yes, good old
about
Cigna.
Downcoding.
Yeah.
Surely physicians have some idea. They know about what CPT codes.
You know, I'm going to leave this up to you, because I don't understand a bit of it. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
I like to simplify things down to dollar and cents, because ultimately as a provider, it's what is this really going to cost me? Because most providers are small business owners, and you have to make sure that you're getting the money in to make payroll and keep the lights on. So simply put, Cigna has decided that when you as a doctor send out a claim, and let's say it's for just a regular office visit, everyone knows that CPT code is a 99213.
Sure.
And Cigna has decided that when you send in this claim, they're going to go ahead and just downcode it or drop it down to a 99212.
Wow.
And then pay you for that. If you want the 99213, well, now the ball's back in your court. You're going to have to go through the process of sending in medical records to prove it and have a specialized appeal. So what does that really mean? If you looked at a normal practice that has average volume and you're losing $70, let's say over 10 visits, you multiply that by so many visits per day, so many visits per month, and next thing you know, you're out conservatively about $146,000 per provider for Cigna.
Wow.
In a year.
Wow. Devastating. That would devastate a small business in less than a year.
Right. It would.
It's tragic. And what does that do to women's health?
Well, a lot of specialties, especially women's health, you kind of operate on razor-thin margins as is.
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't take a lot of hits to that small margin to where, the common thing I hear is, I'm working harder and harder and harder, seeing more patients, and where's the money?
How do we build our business and cover our overhead and give our employees good salaries, bonuses, add more employees? How do we do that?
Again, here's a silly analogy for you. Practices, especially women's health care, you're essentially suffering death by 1,000 paper cuts. Oh. You are having a claim here, a claim there, the cost of paying staff to go get those medical records, just leaving denials on the table because no one knows what to do. And next thing you know, that adds up to a lot of money. There goes your margin. There goes your ability to upgrade to the new EHR or hire the staff because all of your staff is maxed and they don't have an additional minute in the day to get things done. And so what you end up having is a very reactive practice instead of making those decisions to preemptively prevent the Cigna hit of $146,000. Now you're just scrambling to make sure that you can make payroll. And a lot of people think there's so much money in healthcare. Doctors just, they're the robber barons of our time.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is
in the life of.
Exactly. But what they don't realize is I have seen it time and time again, practices where they may not make payroll this month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So why and how did Cigna do this? What allowed them to do this, and what enables this to happen? And where is where the checks and balances?
You have to remember that insurance companies are basically casinos. Mm-hmm. Anything and everything they do will always benefit the house. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So if legislature comes in and says, insurance companies, you can't do X, Y, and Z, then they're along the way in the revenue cycle, they're going to shift it to another part and complicate something somewhere else.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
It's a game.
It's a game.
It's a game.
And the trick is to have, in the past, you could have just an in-office biller. But, most of the time, they're so busy getting the claims out, posting the payments, trying to work in an AR as best they can. Or let's say you have just what's called a revenue cycle vendor, right? Your billing company from who knows where that will send you a bill once a month, and you think maybe the AR might be okay. Yeah. What you need is a revenue cycle partner.
Yes.
Someone who is looking ahead to say, hey, heads up, this is what's coming down. Cigna's doing it October 1st of this year.
What is the plan?
Exactly.
What is the plan for
Here's the plan. Here's how we are going to proactively attack this instead of reacting once the AR spikes and no longer can, get payroll.
I like the word that you used, reactive, because that has been the story of the small practitioner.
Yes.
We're reactive, and the minute we think we hired someone who can do this and this, we all of a sudden think we've hit gold and that things are just fine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's really just another reactive move. And until you can take a step back, pull yourself out of that reactive tailspin, you really don't realize how reactive you've been. And Christy's brought this to our attention. It was like a good mental space fix.
Well, and when you're in that mode, it's always survival mode.
It is. High cortisol, epinephrine.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Deep breath, gulp it down.
So as a physician, you use an algorithm to make informed medical decisions about how you're going to treat your patient. But if you're not using data to drive your decisions as the owner, the physician owner.
You mean I can't hire my best friend to be my biller?
Well, you can if they're an expert in billing. Sure.
I can't be best friends and just say this is my business now?
Well, you can, but we kind of refer to those as hobby billers in our industry.
Thank you.
Also
I never knew what those were, but that's good to know.
They're a hobby biller.
A hobby biller, a little friend who does your work for you, and you bring them a little milkshake occasionally, and you just go, but it's not a true revenue cycle partner,
right?
A professional setup, a very professional relationship.
Exactly. Look, in any highly specialized industries, there are levels to expertise. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There are those that are just out of school. Those are the best friend trying to help you out, aka hobby biller. Mm-hmm. And then you have highly trained experts that kind of work more at a national level. Mm-hmm. There's also a subset that they're kind of the ones that you find at the physician conferences that spew out technical terms and have a lot of letters behind their name, but don't necessarily have trench experience, getting in the weeds, fighting with insurances. Unfortunately, in the industry, up until this point, there's been a lot of people that have just enough knowledge to be dangerous, not near enough to be effective.
That's like 99% of us small-town physicians. we think we know a lot, and all of a sudden we get a little bit of information under our belt, and we buy the CPT code book and feel like we've purchased that for the practice. And so, but, we still end up in this very reactive state of epinephrine, cortisol, stress, and not really looking down the road of how to anticipate changes, understand them with a partnership, and then have a plan to not be so reactive, but to be proactive.
Right. And partnership really lends itself to a collaboration. Mm-hmm. It's not just one person saying A, B, and C. It's, hey, this is what I'm noticing. Physician owner, what are you noticing? And how can I help you to make informed decisions about how we move forward?
And what's really good about the process that you've brought is that you've brought a process.
Sure.
Because part of the reactive behavior of physicians is that they don't have a process. And it's really hard. It's like herding cats. You herd these cats, and it took
Great
me a while.
analogy.
In fact, I had to think, can you just give me my chart? Because I really want to do this well, but I actually don't know how. So I will follow my diagram, and do you know when I followed that, I actually contacted the assigned person in the practice to handle this problem, and then it got solved. And if you follow an organizational path, then you enable the partnership to work so well.
Yes.
But you have to be able to, as a physician, take the step back and say, I'm going to be taught, and we're not really good at that. We're not trained to be good at that. So we have to be able to not think that we can do it all, and that's a mental space thing.
Yep.
Yes.
You may not be good at that, but owning your own business will humble you very quickly, as you've
sure.
experienced.
For 25 years worth
no
of
room in small business for an ego.
No, no. I always say I put that in a little jar a long time ago.
Yep.
Occasionally I look at it, kind of like Gus the Firefly, and it's just circling around and say, "Hey there, I used to know you, but guess what? We got work
Yep.
to do. So, see you later."
Yep.
Yeah, work needs to be done. We have a goal, and it doesn't involve ego. So, it is.
So as a partner,
Yeah.
Being on the more collaborative end of the stick, what is it that helps you to help us the most?
One of the things that is helpful, especially coming into revenue cycle as a partner versus, let's say, just a vendor or hobby biller, is that you really have to go in and understand the personality of the practice,
Sure.
the personality of the providers. If you don't actually understand how that practice is operating, you cannot truly understand why they may be in the predicament they are and how do you get them out of it. For example, a flow chart for one provider may be highly effective and helpful. Another provider, that will be the worst thing that you can do. And, a lot of revenue cycle vendors are very kind of, this is our way or the highway. You fit into our mold. You do it how we ask you to, versus we can kind of go in and go, okay, what is working? What isn't working? Where are you in the United States? Because again, the hurdles you have in a small town are not necessarily the hurdles you have in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, granted, there are consistent problems that every practice has, but challenges in a small town are completely different than challenges in a big city. A lot of that has to do with just talent and staffing.
Yeah. If you're in a city that has several universities, you're going to be able to draw employees, full-time or part-time, from a very educated set of population, or people who really see a career in a certain area of growth. But when you're in a smaller town that has maybe less access to the university training, you really have to be committed to training a lot of your employees and having a dedicated assessment of skill sets. And that's got its own set of troubles in and of itself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying one is better than the other, but you're right. You have to be able to foresee the task ahead based on region.
Exactly. If you understand the hurdles, you understand some of the problems that are going to be creeping up, and you know what you have to work with, you know better how to augment. A nice thing with a revenue cycle partner is that you're not geographically stuck to a very small pool of talent.
Right.
You have a partner that has experience in Beverly Hills, Baltimore, Dothan. It doesn't matter. And the talent and expertise can be a lot more exact than just finding out what's in your certain zip codes around where you live.
And preventing the reactive and becoming more proactive, because now you're in a pool of many, you're in a larger pool of information. So the reactivity can be managed in terms of knowing what the future is bringing, because you're collaborative. Now it's a collaborative business, a true partnership.
Yes, exactly.
And that's really also sort of pointing out the whole goal of the MSO, and the whole point of the MSO is to be able to provide those kinds of services so that small practices are not having to scramble and hire full-time staff to take care of the administration, to take care of the HR, to take care of revenue cycle management.
I didn't even know what HR was.
If I had a nickel for every time I've heard that from a provider.
Or I didn't even know what PTO, I don't know, it sounds like something at a school, the PTO.
Yeah.
And so that's where, absolutely, because especially nowadays, you can't jump into a practice and think you're going to run it yourself and not get shut down for something. You've got to have these necessary jobs, and it's with downcoding, for one of many examples, how are you going to provide these jobs or pay for these jobs that are necessary in a workflow if you're constantly being squeezed and crunched? So the MSO really is a solution to allowing independence to physicians, for physicians to be independent, small business owners, and still have the ability to engage in other jobs that may be bigger jobs, and have a collaborative throughout the country of people that are truly partners. And I think it's genius. I love the concept. I love the idea.
Well, and also too, to empower the physician to do what they went to medical school for in the first place.
It is.
And that is not to look at spreadsheets all day long, but to be able to take care of their patients, to do the things that they are passionate about, while we keep our eye on the ball on the other things.
It's all about patient care, and somehow taking care of patients got removed from the picture.
That's right.
And I think the MSO enables us to put patient care back into the picture, at the center of the picture. And if we can put patient care at the center of the picture, everything else becomes a peripheral job that's handled beyond the patient care.
Yeah. Well, look, years ago, I'm not even going to tell you how old, because it's been doing this forever. Years ago, there was the big exodus of providers from their own private practices into the big health systems, because it was sold as, you can just go see patients, we'll do the rest.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, providers started to realize, this is not good. I have no say, no control.
There's autonomy.
There's
decision making.
16 administrators over me that make more money than I do.
Everyone's skimming off
Is
the
this
top.
sounding familiar to anyone? And the sentiment, and again, this is from coast to coast. It doesn't matter the provider I talk to. A lot of providers are like, I'm done with these health systems. I am done with people with clipboards coming in to tell me about a dress code. And, you did a good job. Here's a pizza.
Yeah.
Right? And they want to go back out. They want to have their own practice. But look, starting a business in general is intimidating.
Immensely so.
And a lot of it is, where do I start? What do I do? What do I worry about? What do I not worry about? Because look, small business ownership, not in healthcare, is a lot of work. In healthcare, you walk in and it's like, which fires do I put out now and why?
They made it so complicated to get people into these big health systems, that once you are now falling out of these health systems, there's a whole generation of physicians that would not know how to function outside of the health system. And yet all of the regulations and rules and structure is still required of a small practice. So it's sort of a catch-22. How do I fall out of this system well, let's look for solutions. And I really feel like what should drive your motivation in the day to be a good physician should not be the clipboard holding administrator
pizza party
whose the reward is so trite. The reward should be patient care. The patient said wonderful things. The patient healed really well. In how many of these systems you ever even get to see these patients again?
Oh, that's true.
I mean, insurance, changes, or they get pushed to a different system, and all of a sudden there's no follow-up. So having your small practice where you have that one-on-one and you can really track your patient care, and then really be motivated by the fact that this is your baby, this is your practice. How well are my patients doing? What are they saying about me? And how can I make it better? And then the other thing that should be motivating is your own overhead. If you want to close for a day and take a day off, if you can afford to do it, and your patients are well cared for, then maybe if you can afford to do it, maybe you can do that. Yeah. But now it's almost impossible to take that time off. So time is money, and time is also your health and your mental space. So I think that providing solutions to be able to get back to that small physician-owned practice that still is in compliance with everything under the sun is really where the MSO has brought some incredibly valuable solutions.
Mm-hmm. I think it is the answer that the healthcare system, or the big health systems, was trying to sell, but
literally,
didn't deliver.
It's cloned Christy and Ethne into every business. Like you can open up the door.
Scary thought.
That's a very scary thought.
We should be able to open up a door and say, "Oh, there's Christy and Ethne." Good morning.
But with technology and the internet and remote and EHR and everything that there is available now, essentially you can do that. I mean, it probably scares the living daylights out of my husband to think I'd be cloned. But
I know my husband would just. I don't think he could. I love it.
But it does allow for a big reach.
Yes.
To help a lot within the MSO, because you're not just stuck in one town.
And the other thing is, someone might think, oh, well, what is this MSO and who's running it? I don't know whether I can trust this. But when you look at all the regulations and how direly important it is to be in compliance, everything we have structured in this MSO is really at a very high level.
Yeah.
The legal vendor relationships are very sophisticated. This is not one physician trying to do something for everyone else. It's really an amalgamation of very good vendor relationships that are legally bound within the compliance structures to scale out all of these necessary services at an affordable cost for a small practice, for a small practitioner. Like I said, you got Christy and Ethne, every place there is, just cloned everywhere.
Well, you bring up a good point about trust.
Yes.
That's something that's very real.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
As when I first met you, listening to the list of vendors that you had gone through and tried things with, and how you have gotten to a point where you just were throwing your hands up like, I don't know who else to trust. Mm-hmm. And so for us as an MSO and our partner in RCM, for us, the onus is on us to instill that trust and create and foster that relationship. The only way I can do that is by presenting data to you.
Exactly, metrics driven. And, I'll give you maybe something that's funny but not so funny. You asked for metrics and you were handed a measuring tape. And I said, actually, no, it's the metrics of the business. And so you get from one point to another, and then you realize you really can't run your business unless you have revenue cycle management. We cannot run a business without bringing the cash flow in, and that involves handling insurance companies in a way that we don't know how.
Years ago, this field used to be just referred to as medical billing.
Yeah.
And that's how everyone knew it. And
DRGs or
good old DRG. That's a 4-letter word. Can you say that on a podcast?
Oh my God. I dare to go there.
Clutch my pearls. But it used to be called medical billing, but it has become such a complex field with regulations at the state level, at the federal level, things handed down from commercial insurances on a commercial contract. There's so many different things that have to be essentially aligned that medical billing no longer fit what we actually do. What we do is revenue cycle management. There's so many things going round and round and round that if you don't manage it very well, the wheel flies off essentially.
Yeah, wheels just fall off. Yeah, so that's, I think, really getting a true understanding of what revenue cycle management is and why it's so important. I think it's one of the first things we've really needed to do as we get into the nuts and bolts, the granular areas of the Management Services Organization, or MSO. So I think that of all the services we have, revenue cycle is sort of sitting right there in the middle. It's like the heart, and then everything else can branch off from that. So that you can own your own business.
It's like I was explaining to Ethne earlier, had met with a physician that was referred to the MSO not too long ago, and she was saying to me, things are bad. Things are just bad. I can't connect the dots. She owns her own practice with another physician. And so I just simply asked her, well, do you know what your volume is each day? Do you know how many patients are coming in that you're seeing each day? And she took her laptop out and she started clicking and clacking, and I said, what are you doing? And she said, well, I'm looking, I have a dashboard. I said, oh, okay, great. Let's look at your dashboard together. And she's clicking and she's like, oh my God, it's not working. It's not, I can't pull it up. And so I said to her, Doc, this number, your volume, is what we call an indicator of how your practice is going in terms of the health of your practice. It's just one indicator. It's not all of them, just one. And she was so consumed by the process of trying to extrapolate this number that I could see, okay, this is what the typical physician experiences.
Yes.
When they are asked questions about data, they want to know.
Yeah.
They just don't know.
I've been there. I've been there. And if you were to ask me, I probably still don't know. But now, I know the people to ask. And
correct.
I did not know what a KPI was, a key point indicator.
I love a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I love a KPI. It's just it makes my heart warm. A problem I have always run into when I get called into a practice, and same thing, I'm seeing so many patients, there's no money, and you ask the provider, well, how are you doing? Well, our bank account says this. And providers, you don't realize, but that's the last thing you should be looking at, because that's the end result of the things you luckily had work right. The KPIs, or key performance indicators, are telling us, are things really working? Out of $1 that you build out, how much is actually in your pocket at this moment? Is there trending happening with a payer? Are they paying you what you deserve? All of these things start to come out in these numbers. Now, I have been to many a conference with lots of providers where there's always the revenue cycle experts with lots of letters behind their names, and they will talk about a KPI, but they really never actually get into the weeds with the doctor to say, this is what is in your pocket. That's what this number means. If this number is low, it's because of this, this, and this. And, a lot of rev cycle vendors and companies out there won't take the time to sit with the provider and say, this is what it means to you.
I love what you said, because if you had done this 10 years ago for my practice, I would have had such a stronger practice right now. So it's that clear, crystal clear information it gets lost in the tumbleweeds. It was never crystal clear for me.
Yeah.
It was always in some package of something. If you do this, and I really got so tired of the packages that. But this type of clarity is what we need, and I think this type of voice is the voice doctors need to hear.
Yes.
We're never going to get beyond this if we don't get a very clear picture of what's needed to become a successful practice.
Well, knowing and really understanding KPIs, because that provider that was just fumbling through her little laptop in her EHR with a dashboard somewhere, it's one thing to know you have one, it's another to know, do these numbers actually mean something?
Yeah.
And KPIs can also help to build trust.
Yes.
Because as a provider, if you know what they are, you know what they should be, and you can work with a partner to then say, look at how things are improving numerically. Now you have that trust, because
it gets around the ego too.
Yes.
Because when you tell a physician they need to do something, the first thing I sort of see is this: don't tell me what to do, and how could I possibly be doing something wrong? But if we look at a KPI and see the progress, that it is so encouraging, and it's almost like that carrot. We're willing to make the changes necessary to get our KPI where it needs to be, because we're so success driven. And I think that being able to work with physicians who are willing to make those changes from an objective standpoint, that is going to be, I think, where we're going to find success.
Maybe the physician's not doing anything wrong. Yeah. But how about you tell me what data supports what you're saying?
Exactly.
Because what we learned, you and I working together, was that you were making a lot of assumptions. You might say, oh, I had this number of patients, this amount was gyne issues, this amount was OB issues. So, okay, where's the data to support that assumption?
And doctors love to say, well, I love to do this procedure, so I'm going to do this procedure. Well, is there data to support that we should be doing that procedure in this location, at this time?
That's right.
And just because I like doing it and I've done a lot of these procedures, has it really been profitable for the practice?
Absolutely.
And it's so painful when you
It is, but at the same time, you get to develop a strategic intervention that allows you to make a different decision about your practice, so that you can move beyond what's limiting and get to growth.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is how you grow. Yeah. That is a true partnership.
Sure.
That is what the partnership is about. It's not just a package deal that you got. It's a partnership to move the indicators to success.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, it also allows you to do what is called forecasting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's say there is a procedure you really want to do. If we really understand where the practice is, where the KPIs are, sort through a lot of the things that are causing those little paper cuts to make you bleed, then we get to have the fun conversations of, here's what's changing this year, here's how it can become dollars and cents, and here's how, let's say it's not the most lucrative procedure, but you really want to give that care to your patient, that's fine. Forecasting allows us to say, if you want to do this, then we have to offset it with doing these things. Because the reality is, these are businesses. They're not philanthropic endeavors. We have very expensive student loans to pay off.
Yes.
So we have to make sure that we do forecasting.
And besides thinking that the forecast is the weather, I think, which you ask the average physician, they're going to think you're talking about the clouds.
Yeah.
And it's the clouds in your coffee, I guess. It's we need to understand the value of forecasting.
Absolutely.
Because we really that's a new phenomenon for a physician who has just been used to flying by the seat, reacting and doing things. But forecasting and understanding the value of a procedure is a new concept that will make physicians successful.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Most of the forecasting that I get asked to do is actually at the corporate level with large medical technology corporations. So even at that level, with millions and millions of dollars in venture capitalists, they still have to have the same forecasting that you need to have in your practice. They're doing the exact same thing.
See, and all of these concepts that are done at the macro level really need to be done at the micro level of just a small practice. And we think that we don't need to because we're just a small practice. We do. We need to forecast. We need to understand it. We need to have also a respect for it. And that comes with, I think, teamwork, with partnership, and with education.
Yes.
If you can have physicians be truly educated into what they should be doing and should not be doing, I think that all of the bigger, very relevant processes can be tailored to the smaller practice through the skill set that the MSO brings to that practice.
Yeah, when I've met with physicians, I've sort of used the KPIs and related those to symptomology.
Yes.
So imagine if a patient never indicated their symptoms, would you be able to offer any kind of diagnostic impression?
Exactly.
Or, I mean, aren't you relying on the patient to report out? That's the same usefulness for myself as an administrator, RCM, is KPIs.
Right.
They help us to determine where next to step.
Exactly, and you just understanding the utility and the importance is what we are doing through our podcasting, through our advertising, through building our Estrogenica brand. It's all about changing the view of how smaller practices can become successful and fun. And really, at the end of the day, like I've always said, it's about patient care. Bring better physician care to patients.
Small can be agile.
Yes, flexible, fast.
Exactly. And that gives you that freedom that if you want to take a Thursday off and actually, let's say, be a mom, be a parent.
Go to that ball game and not feel guilty that you had 5 people with clipboards telling you that you did.
Or lay in bed, drink a glass of rosé and watch Real Housewives.
And
whatever you want to do.
Right.
Be off call and do that. Absolutely.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. I think recapturing our freedom is part of what we're trying to do. And I think we feel suffocated by the insurance companies that are downcoding things and making us reactive. And I think it's suffocating.
Yes.
And I think having a voice to share with the people that are suffocating with us and who would like to be able to breathe a little better or have that freedom to self-direct your daily schedule. I think your daily schedule, just being able to make a few self-directed changes in your schedule is a freedom that we've lost. We've lost a lot of that.
It is. In revenue cycle terms, even looking at your schedule to say, listen, you're seeing 5 patients more than you probably should, and you're losing money this way. Let's say you're conflicting your visits and zeroing out your effort. It's
what's really interesting that you said that. It kind of brought me into some of the non-insurance based items that, for instance, in our medical aesthetics cash pay service line, what I've never had in my practice, but we have now, is sort of cash pay analytics that come in through Square technology. There's other technology out there too. But what that has really shown me is the breakdown. And when I see the breakdown of when the sales are made, I keep thinking, oh, wow. Like, let's say we wanted to add more employees. Well, maybe we would do it at this time when the sales occur the most.
Yep.
And maybe if I wanted to work less hours and make more sales and do things in this time frame, because the analytics are telling me that we have more sales during this time. Why would we add a full-time employee to do the same work and not concentrate a PRN employee during that sales time? And so little things like that have become realities, and I'm thinking, how much time have I been wasting, and how much payroll have I been wasting by not really directing the the production in that maximal time of production making.
Eliminating redundancies always saves money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely. Data too.
yeah. Metrics.
You've been listening to the Boss of Reason podcast, brought to you by Astrogenica Health 360, where women's wellness comes full circle. To learn more about how our MSO supports physicians in private practice, visit AstraZenecaMSO.com, because better care starts with better conversations.